Today on an all-new Dr. Phil.
There is a homeless guy with a shotgun.
Should homeless camps
I have 5 kids. This is our home.
be banned? You've got mentally ill people there.
I had a bipolar episode. I lost everything.
You've got drug addicts there.
A lot of women on the street, most of them didn't make it.
The solution is to provide housing for people that need it.
But should somebody be able to say, I'm homeless, I want an apartment? Here in California, we have more than half of all unsheltered homeless people in the United States, and the highest number of homeless encampments. Clusters of tent cities line almost every block. Beach paths, parks, underpasses, and street dividers look like Skid Row. California's problem is reflective of a growing national crisis. Major cities across the United States are taking aim at the issue, passing new bans that restrict where the homeless can camp. This problem is not going away. It seems to be growing, if anything. I think maybe inflation is making it even worse. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for elevating this issue. It's a very complex issue, and it takes a lot of time for people to understand it. I would agree with you, it's growing. We're seeing more people on the streets. We've seen the growth of unsheltered homelessness for the past 5 years. And the reasons behind that, there's a number of reasons. Inflation is one of those reasons. We also have the remnants of the COVID-19 epidemic. That is certainly having its effect on the growth of homelessness. Some of those jobs, those service sector jobs, will never return. The CDC just announced a couple of weeks ago that we'll see an average of about 3.8 million people evicted over the next 2 months.
Over the next 2 months?
Over the next 2 months.
Wow. Joe, you say homeless encampments should be banned.
We have found in the city of Los Angeles that over half the fires that the LA Fire Department responds to are encampment related. People are dying on our streets. We also have to recognize that being homeless is not a crime. Again, let me repeat, being homeless is not a crime. However, there are criminal elements around these encampments. You have drug dealers, you also have gang members who are preying among our most vulnerable.
Well, look, we wanted to show you the humanity behind some of the people living in these tents. The councilman's homelessness deputy, Alexis, took us to several encampments in his district. So let's just take a look so we know what we're talking about here.
We're in South Los Angeles at a homeless encampment. This is just one out of hundreds of places in Los Angeles. We have cleared this encampment multiple times, but it continues to come back. We have offered so many services. Unfortunately, the individuals that are here are resource resistant. They do not want the services. We have homeless advocates that come here and encourage these individuals to stay here, basically to die on the streets. A lot of them do like living on the street. They're receiving food, they're receiving water, they're receiving money.
A lot of people are rebelling because this is their nature to be out here. It's like the best available place. Like, who don't like to be free?
I've been homeless since 2017. I have 5 kids. I'm struggling a lot. It'd be nice to have a place to live. This is what I'm trying to build. There's a pull-out bed that comes out right here. And I have the curtain where my kids use the bathroom back here, so nobody sees them. And I was a big drug addict. I was using needles, pipes. That's what I went to jail for also. But it's like, I don't know, I have a lot of dreams. We're all human beings just like you guys. But the only thing is we don't have money and income the way you guys do. I'm a felon, a criminal. A lot of people out here are. And it's hard for us to get jobs. And the only way we look at it is, this is our home. This is our environment.
Now, Joe, your office is aware of this particular case, and she's refused help multiple times, right?
Yes, unfortunately, and that piece breaks my heart, Dr. Phil. When you see the kids in an RV knowing that the mom doesn't want help, breaks all of our hearts, and that should not be allowed.
Right. You had a comment?
Hi, yeah, that's a narrative that you often hear, that the homeless don't want help, and they certainly didn't want it in the old model of housing, which was a large building with cot after cot after cot, where they could get assaulted. They didn't have a safe place for their things, and a lot of homeless people have pets that they love so much, and those shelters didn't allow safety, didn't allow pets. So the new thinking is that didn't work, but we could build tiny homes are an idea.
We know what not to do, right.
And that gives a person their own space. One of the speakers in the video said he likes freedom. He doesn't want to be dictated to. So if we give them a home where they can keep their stuff safely, have their pet, I think a lot of people would like that.
Those innovative solutions,
Well,
absolutely.
Donald, with shelters themselves, they have to line up again every day.
Yes.
They get there and they get into the shelter, but then they leave. They have to come back and line up again every day. They might get in, they might not. So that's very temporary, correct?
Absolutely. And a shelter is not a home. A shelter is a temporary structure that was designed to protect people from the elements.
Yeah.
We know shelters don't work.
Yeah.
Well,
and Joe, what you're doing is these.
Tiny home village. That's, again, finding innovative solutions like tiny home, prefab homes to build on parcels that are quicker and cheaper to get souls off the streets and into shelter. But again, Dr. Phil, what happens when they say no? What happens knowing that?
Can I just address that for a moment? I started my work as an outreach worker, and it does take quite a bit of engagement over time, sometimes to get people in. And often it's not that they don't want to, sometimes it's their mental health, sometimes it's substance abuse, sometimes it's just their trust in the system. They have been beaten down so many times that they don't trust that that person across from them is actually gonna give them what they say they're gonna give. So they resist for a while. So these are barriers you have to get through. And you know, I've never, in my 28 years of doing this work, ever heard anybody say they didn't want an apartment. Now, I've heard people say they didn't want to get into shelters, but they're not the solution. Housing is the solution.
Advocates argue that banning and sweeping homeless encampments is inhumane, and it will not solve the problem. Kelly, who you just heard from, says she lived in a homeless encampment in Los Angeles for 2 years. She believes these bans will actually help people like her get off the street. Kelly, thank you for being here. Now, it was not easy to accept help, right? This was something that you had a lifestyle that was not good, but it was hard to give up.
It was very hard to give up.
What caused you to make that decision?
My grandchildren, which some of them I've never got a chance to meet. I haven't seen some of my kids since 2012. It's been so hard on the street for a woman. A lot of women that I know that were on the street, most of them didn't make it. And it broke my heart. Now, I'm here today to give back to the community. I just finally got my house. I worked very hard to get it. There's times I wanted to get up and just walk away. But you know what? I made a deal with God, and I told God, if I do my part, would you help me out with my other part? And you know what? I got everything fell in place for me. As of 9/9/2022, I had received a message saying that I got my home on my birthday. And it was the best birthday present I ever got.
At this point, you described yourself on the street as experiencing a lot of despair and not a lot of hope and self-medicating with drugs. Do you have hope now?
I have a lot of hope.
Do you feel like you have meaning in this world now?
Yes, I do. And I'm meant to be put out there and to help other people out and, you know, and share my story to other people. I have inspired so many women that came into the shelter and said, I want to be just like her.
Frankie is with us, and he says the situation has gotten completely out of control. And the truth is, as I say, this is not a one-size-fits-all, but there are those elements inside these encampments that can be really unpredictable. And his TikTok videos about the dangerous activities he's witnessed, just basically outside his doorstep, have amassed millions of views, but do give us an insight into what some of these kids can be exposed to.
So the crazy just happened in Venice. There was a homeless guy with a shotgun. It took the cops 30 minutes to show up, which is insane. So this homeless guy just tried to steal my neighbor's flip-flops, like right in front of me. And I was like, can you please put those down? Those are my friends, he's surfing. He turns to me and says, if I don't take them, someone else will. So I had to call LAPD again this morning. There was a homeless man with a club trying to break into my neighbor's house across from me on the canal. So I literally walked up to the guy and was like, you need to leave this property immediately. This guy gave literally zero. He went 3 doors down and tried to break into my other neighbor's house. Like, what are we doing? This is absolutely insane.
Now, Frankie, you're not just taking pictures, you're actually involved in helping with some of this. So, and I'm glad that you are.
I've dealt with my own fair share of addiction and mental health problems, just like I'm sure everybody in this room has or a family member. So I totally get it. I think one of the main problems just as a civilian is most people don't do anything. Like everyone complains about it. It's a very hot topic to complain about. It's a hot topic in politics everywhere, but no one's really doing anything, or very few people are. And we could have all the money in the world to solve this problem, but if we don't have enough people showing up to volunteer, it's not really gonna work.
What can people do nationally? Because this problem exists in New York, Chicago, Dallas, Denver. I mean, this is not an isolated problem.
So there's so many things that the country, that individuals can do. Volunteering is a great idea. Many times people start to renew that connection with everyday life by having an interaction with a volunteer. So I would say volunteering is great. And I think another really important thing is to convince our elected officials that they have to really do something to change this issue from a political standpoint. We need the resources to be able to address this problem. This is the longest period of homelessness in the history of our country. And it started in the late 70s, early 80s. Other times we've had robust solutions from the federal government that lowered those numbers. We had Social Security, we had Medicaid, we had the housing programs of the 30s. Some of those weren't racially equitable, but we certainly have those programs in place, and they dramatically reduced homelessness. Since the 80s, we haven't seen that. And one of the thing, I wanted to go back just a little bit to Ryan's story. Me and Ryan talked on the way over, and I really appreciate it. I gave him my card. I hope he'll contact me. So here's the issue. The problem with addressing the issue of homelessness with encampment raids, these are not sweeps. We don't sweep people. We sweep trash and we sweep leaves. These are raids. So when we go into and we raid encampments, there's always the potential of a life-threatening event. People that have mental health issues and law enforcement don't get along. And sometimes that ends in tragedy. So we have to be very careful about that. And it doesn't change homelessness. You move someone from one place to another, they're still homeless. You haven't done anything to address homelessness.
We're talking about people that don't have the ability to create a stable home environment. We're talking about people that clearly don't need a hand out, they need a hand up. And that's what we're talking about here. And I think that's what both of these gentlemen are trying to achieve. What's important is if you do a housing first model, you have to follow up and make sure that these caseworkers don't say you have to do A, B, and C or you're out on the street again, but you have to follow up with these people and really inspire them, really help them, really motivate them to do the things that will get them to be contributing members of society again. Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the link in the description and tell me what in the world is going on.